Hey, thank you, Chief. Welcome, folks. I appreciate the invitation here to come talk to you folks today. My name is Joe Mead. I'm Director of Safety for Brightline. I've been down here for a couple of years. Retired firefighter from New Jersey. I also worked at New Jersey Transit in their OEM. Followed that up for a while, went to the Federal Railroad Administration as an accident incident investigator. Worked with the FRA and the National Transportation Safety Board on investigating rail accidents around the country. Part of one of their go teams, similar to airlines. Something happens, they give you a call and off you go. One of my main functions in that was critiquing fire departments and emergency responders on how they responded into rail accidents. In addition to that, checking to make sure that they followed their own SOPs. If they didn't have an SOP, work with them to try to come up with one for future incidents. Additionally, would critique the railroads to see how they responded and followed their own SOPs as well. Have with me today Brian Houlihan. Brian comes to us today. He was a commanding officer of Midtown North in Manhattan of NYPD, spent close to 30 years there. Also had a career prior to joining NYPD. He was with New York City Emergency Medical Service prior to them rolling into FDNY. So he went blue instead of going red. We won't hold that against him today because we got two cops in the room and they probably got guns with them too. So we won't hold that against him. But welcome today. The reason we're here today is to give you a little overview on Brightline itself, where we are today, where we're going to be in a couple of months, and make sure that when something happens on the railroad, I say when, not if, because odds are something's going to happen within your jurisdiction, or you may respond in mutual aid to something that does happen. So we're here to make sure that you folks understand exactly what's going on out there and how to respond into incidents. We're the only privately owned railroad in the country. Currently, we run between Miami and West Palm Beach. We don't get taxpayer funded. We don't get any federal funds either. It's all privately funded. The good thing about that is you don't have to listen to the politicians tell you what they want. We can do what we want, and that's the only way you can get all the work done that was done here in the last 6.5 years to build 300 miles worth of railroad in that time. You can do it privately funded. So that's exactly what we did. We currently have 5 stations down south. We have Miami, we have Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, and we just opened up 2 more stations, one in Boca Raton and one in Aventura. All right, our phase 1 area where we're operating today between West Palm Beach and Miami opened up in 2018. We're finishing the work between West Palm Beach and Orlando Station. That should be opening hopefully by sometime between the end of this month and September 1st. Have about 95% of the work done. We're still doing testing. You may see trains come through the area now. Those trains do not have anybody on them. If you do get any kind of incident involving one of those trains, there are no passengers on those trains. Once we get to Orlando, we're going to start construction building out all the way to Tampa. That job will probably be done within 3 to 5 years. We're also building railroad between LA and Las Vegas. We're building the first true high speed. I know everyone calls Brightline high speed, but technically high speed railroad has to be over 175 miles an hour. So we will be building high speed between LA and Las Vegas. We're going to be shooting for 220 miles an hour, make it a 90-minute run from downtown LA into Las Vegas. That's probably about 7 years out on that. Currently, between West Palm Beach and Cocoa, where once we get to Cocoa, we turn left, we go along 528 out into Orlando. Between Cocoa and West Palm Beach, top speed will be 110 miles an hour. Between Cocoa and Orlando, top speed will be 125 miles an hour. The difference between the two is anytime you go above 110 miles an hour, you can't have any interaction with the public. You can't have any grade crossings. You can't have any public crossings. Along the 528 area there, I don't know if you've ever driven across there, the railroad's on your left-hand side. You'll see that if you go out towards Orlando. 125 there, 110 here, 79 down into Miami. Although the railroad Brightline is kind of new here, coming through Indian River. The railroad's been here for close to 100 years. Your notification process will be the same as it is today. There are no changes in who's going to call you or who you call. Those phone numbers are still the same. We're dealing with the same dispatcher's office there in Jacksonville, Florida. They will be dispatching both our trains and the Florida East Coast trains that have been here for a while. I just got to skip ahead a little bit here. I'm a little bit out of order. So this is the kind of stuff you're going to see. All right. The photo on your left is a trespasser strike. Anyone who gets hit on the railroad is trespassing. It's private property. It doesn't matter if they're on a grade crossing or they're on the right-of-way crossing between two grade crossings. Once those gates come down, that basically tells you you're on private property. So anyone getting struck by a train is doing so while they are trespassing. That being said, our trains are designed, you see the damage that a body can cause. That's a solid aluminum cone, nose cone. The good thing about that, if there is a good thing when you hit somebody, is we have a tendency to throw them. They don't normally go underneath the train. Have any of you been involved in any type of incident involving railroads yet? All right. Trespassers, fatalities, I'm assuming. Okay. Most of the time on freight trains, they go underneath the train. All right. They have a tendency to go underneath and get all kinds of chopped up and whatnot. And then the medical examiner's got a lot of work to do to pick them up. We have a tendency to throw them clear of the tracks. They usually stay in relatively one piece. The photo on your right is when we strike a motor vehicle. Again, we normally will push that motor vehicle off to the side, throw it off to the side. These are both hits at 79 miles an hour. This is what it looks like when we hit a vehicle. I say this all the time. I thought all the stupid people lived in New York and New Jersey, but apparently we all moved down here because the things we see on a daily basis are unbelievable. The stupidity of drivers is unreal. I know you guys see it basically on a daily basis as well. But the photos on the left and the center, a woman was driving down the road. Her GPS told her to turn left, so she did. She turned left down the railroad, jumped down the tracks for about 200 yards before she realized she was on the railroad. She tried to turn left off the tracks. Luckily, she saw the train coming, but we hit her and pushed her about another 1,000 feet. The photo on the right is something that happens quite frequently as well. People do not have enough room to clear the grade crossing as they come up to a stoplight. All right, you have that a lot out here by Dixie Highway, where the railroad parallels Dixie Highway, where you have stop signs or traffic lights. So people are not paying attention. The car in front of them stops for the traffic light or for traffic ahead, and their rear end is hanging over the tracks. Train comes, they can't get out of the way, and we take off the rear ends of the cars. That's what happened here in a guy on the left. The car on the right is a second one that did the old GPS told me to turn left, so I did. This is another incident we had. This is actually a suicide by train during our investigation. If you look up in the photo on the right, right in that window on the right-hand side, we have front view cameras. We have video of every incident that happens. We use that for law enforcement if they need it. We also view it ourselves on a daily basis to see what's happening. But we viewed this individual pulled up on the railroad, put his car in park. We know that because we saw the rear reverse lights come on, and then he lounged his chair back and we hit him. 70% of the incidents that happen on railroads, particularly with trespasses, are intentional acts, meaning people commit suicide. They do it not only in Florida, but that's a nationwide average as well. We fall right into that. So 70% of particularly trespassers or pedestrians, if you want to call them that, are intentional acts. You can see in this photo here how the car is wrapped around the front of the locomotive. What we can do also is, once you folks get on scene, if you're doing extrication, is we can move that train backwards to allow you better access in to get those folks out. Whether it's a recovery or whether it's a rescue, we have the ability to move that train away from you, as we did here, to allow better access to get those folks out of the car if necessary. Again, this is the same guy. So these are things you're going to see. coming through your jurisdiction mostly on when incidents do occur. So here, we're not immune, right? We had an incident just about a month and a half ago down in Palm Beach County. Palm Beach Sheriff's Office was chasing an individual along the right-of-way. They had about 10 cops chasing them. They're on both sides of the railroad. They're in the middle of the track. Train came up. Luckily, PD officers got off the track. The suspect did not. So we became judge, jury, and executioner and hit him. Could have easily been one of the PD officers. Okay? We can't get that tunnel vision when we're responding in, whether it's PD or FD. You know, we see smoke and fire. We can't get that tunnel vision. Where are we and what's going to happen? All right, somebody's in trouble, right? As a minor motor vehicle accident, that's in Detroit, Michigan. And if you know anything about Detroit, Michigan, it's a struggling community. First new ladder truck in 13 years. That was it. 2 months on the road, totally destroyed, okay? Again, it's a minor motor vehicle accident. They were called to put some speedy dry down. Can't get the tunnel vision, all right? Where are we going? What are we doing? We gotta make sure that we don't get ourselves in trouble. Fires alongside the right-of-way. Again, first thing you want to do is call the railroad, shut it down. All right? If you got a job along the railroad where you're going to be impeding the railroad or you're going to be laying lines across the railroad, call us up. We'll shut it down. We'll respond out. We'll assist you. We'll give you some advice and some ideas on how you guys can do what you have to do and we have to do what we have to do. You say, who gives a shit? Brightline trains. We'll hold the train. I have no problem with that. The problem comes in when you shut the railroad down and we have freight trains. Freight trains are almost 2.5 miles long. So we shut a freight train down, they're going to stop that train wherever that train is at that moment. It could split your city in half, right? 2.5 miles long. You have a problem down here, you shut the railroad down and they stop the train up in Melbourne and cut that city in half. 2.5 miles is going to cut that whole downtown area off. And then PD, FD, the local communities, they're not going to be able to get by. So what do? We try to work together and identify how we can keep the railroad moving so you don't cut your community in half, as well as you guys accomplish what you have to do. Size up on any kind of train is the same as you guys use on any kind of job that you go into. Real important thing right here are these signs. Every grade crossing in the United States has one of these blue signs. All right? That sign gives you information on who to call. That's the 800 number for the train dispatcher who's in charge of that section of track. So if you get something wrong on a grade crossing, you call that phone number, you're gonna be talking to the guy who can help you out and stop the trains. It also gives you a specific number for that grade crossing, right? The crossing on the left may look like that 100 years ago, maybe Farmer Jones crossing. Well, Farmer Jones sells his farm, and now they put a condo complex or a shopping complex in. They widen the grade crossing, and they rename it Main Street. No one calls the railroad to tell them they've renamed it Main Street, so the railroad still thinks it's Farmer Jones crossing. Now you turn around and rename it again. Fallen service member, fallen PD, fallen FD member, MLK Boulevard. We have like 9 MLK Boulevards in a really small section of track down south. So you call up and say, I'm at MLK Boulevard. Which one? Oh, the one in my town. Well, I'm in Jacksonville. I don't know where you are. You call up, you look at that placard, and that'll tell you exactly where you are. It gives a specific number. There's also an app. It's called Railroad Locator. Will identifies all those grade crossings prior. We've already talked in many classes before about during your pre-plan, put these numbers already into your pre-plan. You know you're coming between, I'm making names, 1st and 2nd Street. You know those numbers already. When you get an incident involving any of those grade crossings, you already have this information either in your CAD system or your dispatchers have it, and you don't have to worry about where you are. When they call the railroad, you tell them I'm working at between 272-407 and 207-408. That dispatcher will know exactly where you are because he has that computer. He just pulls that number in. Currently, the operation through your town is a single track railroad. All right, has been for 100 years, one track through the town. It's going to be 2 tracks now. So that means trains can come in opposite directions or they can come side by side parallel. So when you see one train coming now, you know, oh, okay, I'm pretty clear for a while. But that's not going to be the case moving forward. You're going to have trains coming in both directions at any time, in any direction. Don't fall into the possibility of every day at 10 o'clock in the morning that train comes through. And every day we run about 95% on-time performance. So 95% of the time that train's going to be on time at 10 o'clock. Well, now Thursday comes and it's 10:15 and you got something out there, oh, that train's got to be gone. It's 10:15. It comes by every day. Don't get lulled into that, all right? Whenever you're out there, you should be expecting a train at any time coming in any direction as well. All right, who's going to be coming to the party? Something happens out there. All our train crews, all the people responding to help you are trained in the incident command system. We will fold right into your incident command system and be a part of it. So you folks will be there, PD, EMS, and PD. Also from our house, we're going to send someone from my department, Brightline System Safety and Security, all retired PD or FD. All have dealt with numerous incidents like this. Use us, all right? We're there to help you. We'll fold right into your command system. We're going to send someone from our mechanical department. They'll be there to check the train out to make sure the train is okay to continue on its route. If there is a problem that you need done with that train, they're there to help you as well. They're the experts in it. You need doors open, you need things shut down. They're the ones that can help you as well. We also send out transportation supervisors. They're the bosses of the conductors and engineers in case one of them or both of them are incapacitated or can't physically move that train again, they're able to do it. And we send someone from railway claims because everyone's going to get sued. So you got to get the proper paperwork done. So there's someone from our claims department that shows up as well. Depending on the severity of the incident, the Federal Railroad Administration may respond. The National Transportation Safety Board may respond. They usually come out on a higher body count, all right? They don't come out for your bread and butter job of a trespasser strike or a vehicle strike. They will not come out on that. They will come out on a fatality involving a train crew member or a passenger. And again, the body count has to be high for them to come out. If during the course of our investigation or the PD's investigation, it's deemed that something sinister may have happened, that it was an intentional act, i.e. sabotage on a rail or something like that, we're required to call the FBI and the Joint Terrorist Task Force on that. Anytime we have any type of incident, even it can be deemed as minor, whether it's debris on the tracks, whether it's something that our track department may find out of line, we notify the Joint Terrorist Task Force. There's a lot of stuff going on around the country, and they're looking for trends. They're looking for what's happening not only in Florida, but all over. And maybe there's a trend going around. Upon arrival, you folks are going to establish a command post. You're going to look for that train conductor. All right, that train conductor is going to do your original size up for them. We train them that they're your original incident commander. They're the first ones on the scene 98% of the time because they're the eyewitness. So they're going to have information for you on what's the matter with the train. Is the train derailed? How many injuries? Are there any injuries? Where are those injuries? Any special needs guests? And what can I do to help you? That's what they're going to ask. When an incident happens, the first thing that our crews do is they assess the entire train for injuries. Out of all the incidents we've never had an injury aboard our train. All right, you can hit cars, you can hit trucks, and believe it or not, most of the time you don't even feel it. All right, just a little backup on incidents that happened. Out of all the incidents that happened on our railroad, over the last 4 years, we have never had a human error. We have never had a mechanical failure. We have never had a gate failure. Every incident has been deemed a human error on the side of either the trespasser or the car driver. We have never had any gates failed. It's a very, very, very rare occurrence for gates to fail. So again, it's a question of where are these folks coming from? What are they doing? All right. Again, they're trespassing or they're violating the law by not obeying the traffic signals. But getting back onto this, use that conductor. All right. Take them with you. They got the keys to the train. They got the keys to the kingdom. They can let you on board. We'll show you how to get on board the trains also. When you do respond in, all right, even though as the lieutenant said, the first thing you're going to do is call the railroad and make sure it's shut down. I make a recommendation that grab your Proby, give them a hand light, give them a couple of flares, and tell them to start walking. Protect your scene yourself. Dispatchers do screw up, all right? So you have a little advantage here. You have that Dixie Highway that runs alongside a lot of the railroads, so you have a pretty good view of it. If you can use a second unit, go out approximately 1.5 miles and use those for your lookouts, right? Giving them a hand light and giving them a flashlight, some flares. If you get a job that you find prior to the railroad notifying you, good thing to do is this while you're making those notifications. When you notify the railroad to shut down, it's not an immediate operation. So example, you witness something, whether PD or FD, you witness an incident on the railroad, you call your dispatcher, right? Engine 3 to dispatch, I need the railroad shut down. If your dispatchers are like mine, they never answer the first time you call them. So you got to call them a second time. The clock's ticking. They finally answer. What do you got? I'm on the railroad. I'm at 4th Avenue. Call the railroad and shut it down. Your train dispatcher, your police dispatcher, again, they may be busy. They may be getting numerous calls depending on how big this job is. I don't know how many dispatchers you have. But now the notification goes, they got to find the number. They got to pick up the phone. They got to call the train dispatcher up in Jacksonville. I guarantee you that train dispatcher in Jacksonville is not going to pick up the phone on the first ring. They're going to be either in the bathroom, they're going to be getting coffee, they're going to be on another line. That phone could ring. You're trying to go to work. You're trying to do what you have to do. You finally get a hold of that train dispatcher. How you doing? This is Indian River County. We need the railroad shut down. Where do you need it shut down? I'm between point A and point B. Stand by. We want your dispatchers to stay on the line with that railroad dispatcher. That railroad dispatcher is going to check his computer screen and identify if there's any trains in your area. All right? At that point, he's going to try and stop that train. Only 2 ways to do that is, one, if he's in an area where there's a signal location, he can put a stop signal up and stop that train, or he needs to get a hold of him on the radio. Where are you? Again, not going to answer the first time. Finally gets a hold of him. Bring your train to a stop. Indian River's got a job on 1st Street. Now the train's going to stop. Again, if that's a freight train, he's stopping wherever he's going to be. Grade crossing's blocked. It really doesn't, it's no issue that he cannot stop his train exactly where he wants. He's told to bring his train to a stop, they bring it to a stop. But again, this whole procedure could take 10 to 12 minutes. You guys are looking to go to work. You guys are looking to do stuff. So we've got to understand where our second due is coming from. Do I need to call more assets to come in on another side? Do I need to protect myself? So that's what's going to happen on that. And the way we do that, the photo on the left is a guy who drove through the gates and smashed into the side of the train. People do that quite frequently. I don't know why, but they smash through the gates and they smash into the side of the train. The photos in the center and the right-hand side are a car carrier that we hit. We'll show you a video of that later on this. But this is how we get trains through. So again, trains keep moving, cleaning up the scene, doing our investigation, whatever we have to do, and we keep people moving, we keep freight trains moving as well. On both those incidents, all those trains in there, what we were doing is pulling that train parallel to the disabled train or the train involved in the incident. All right, I want to pull that train right next door to it. I put this bridge plate between the two trains, the disabled train and the incident train and the rescue train, and I move those folks off the one train and put them on the rescue train. We get them out of town.
Watch your step. Thank you for your patience. Watch your step going across. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, great way to move people out of there. Then we can leave the train there as long as we want. All right, whether we have to do, investigations or we're picking up parts or whatever we have to do, we have the availability to do that. We keep a manifest of all the people's names on there. We do an overview. We make sure that they get asked a second time while they're getting walked across if they have any injuries or whatnot. And Brian will go into a little bit during his he does a special PD presentation that we're going to be doing for you guys, which is the law enforcement aspect of investigation on railroads. Trains are not vehicles. It doesn't get copied as a motor vehicle incident. Trained locomotive engineers don't need driver's licenses. Trained locomotive engineer has a certificate issued by the federal government that allows them to operate that locomotive. All right. Here's our trains. 4-car trains to start out with. You can average about 50 people on each coach. 2 locomotives, 1 on each end. That's for reliability issues. If one locomotive craps out, you can fire up another one and the folks can continue on their way. It's also for crash worthiness. When you get speeds above 79 miles an hour, that train needs to be able to take a hit. That train needs to be able to protect the crew and the passengers. So that's why there's a locomotive on each end of these trains. Who's on board the train? You got the train locomotive engineer. He or she is the one that moves the levers and makes the train go from one end of the track to the other. We have the train conductor. He or she is in charge of that train. They're the boss. They're the one that tell the engineer when to go and when not to go. We also have our train attendants. They're like flight attendants on the train. We try to get 1 in each coach. You can average out usually one attendant per every 2 coaches. So the train attendants are the one that do the overview of when an incident happens. They talk to every customer, make sure everyone's okay. You're going to be looking for that conductor. That conductor is going to be walking back to your scene to identify exactly what's going on. A lot of times they're the first ones to find these people that we hit. Right? They know where they are. They're the ones that go and find them. But again, they're going to have all the information that you folks need to get on board that train. Shutting down a locomotive. We're going to show you a couple of videos later on where you would think, okay, the first thing I get on scene is I got to shut the locomotive down. I got 2,400 gallons of diesel fuel on there. We got to shut the locomotive down. We need to really think about that. All right. If we shut down locomotives, we're also shutting out the electricity and we're shutting down the air conditioning. More importantly, the air conditioning. We've done tests on these coaches. Once you shut the coach down, the coach is made of stainless steel. They heat up to over 120 degrees in almost less than 30 minutes. Okay? Now you spread that out over an hour or so, and now you got something where you turned into a mass casualty. But now you got 200 people sweating their ass off who want to get off that train and are complaining when did we need to shut that locomotive down? Working with your train crew, identifying the goals we're looking to accomplish. Why are we shutting down a locomotive? Sometimes folks want to shut locomotives down for recovery. I guarantee you, we hit someone coming through Indian River County, they're not going to be underneath the train. They're going to be way far away, or they're going to be a quarter mile to a half mile behind it. But for some reason, if we have to shut down locomotives, there's ways of doing it where we can isolate, what we call isolate. Shut down a locomotive you need to work on and fire up from another locomotive, the rear locomotive, to make sure we keep those customers comfortable on that. So again, discussions with the onboard staff, letting them know what you need to do and identifying how we're going to shut down the locomotives. If we do need to shut them down, they're really easy to do. I would talk to the locomotive engineer first. Have he or she shut your locomotive down if need be. Or if they're incapacitated, you can shut it down yourself. You push the button off on the right-hand side that's labeled emergency fuel cutoff, just like a motorcycle or a lawnmower. You turn a petcock and the fuel runs out and then the locomotive will die probably after about 30 seconds to a minute. That silver gauge there, that's your fuel gauge. That'll tell you how many gallons of diesel you're working with. That's right above the fuel tank, easily viewed. There's 2 more shutoffs inside the locomotive itself, usually used by guys doing mechanical work on it. And then there's one where the locomotive engineer can shut it down as well. We do a black tank similar to like your RVs, 200 gallons. They get dumped every night. But again, you have one of these underneath every coach. There are bathrooms aboard every coach. That's covered by a metal cowling there. It's a spring-loaded. They're locked. Train crew does have keys, or you can just use the screwdriver to open that up. Haven't had any issues with these, though, in any type of incident that we've responded to. We do have batteries underneath there as well. Lead-acid batteries. Got to be concerned about that. They're underneath as well. This is what they look like. They're encased in steel containers. If by chance something happened with that, we just got to be aware of that. Fire extinguishers and emergency tools. We got rudimentary forcible entry tools on there. You're going to bring in your own tools, though. We do have ladders, though. That's something you folks are going to probably want to get acquainted with. These are about 7.5 to 8 foot ladders. Each coach has one. They're opposite the bathrooms themselves. You guys don't carry little giants on your trucks, right? Those ladders. Recommendation I made to the chief, whether he listens or not, I'm not sure. 2 things you need is you need little giants, you need a piercing nozzle. We'll talk about a piercing nozzle later. But little giant's a great tool. All right, easily used, particularly in a situation like this. We have these ladders. They're about 7.5 to 8 feet long. You can see the gentleman over here on the ground here. He's 6'2". So you can see the height we're dealing with to try to get on and off these trains. Most of our trains do not have steps. So we're going to have to take folks off in an emergency situation this way. It's a lot of work. It's dangerous. You get a lot of twisted ankles and things like that. But again, these ladders are available to you. You may have to use your attic ladders or your smaller ladders, whatever you folks use on a daily basis. But this is, like I say, this is on level ground. You go out sometimes on the railroad itself, it could be 6, 8, 12 feet that you're stretching up to get onto that train. So you're going to have to use your regular extension ladders and other ladders. How do we get on the train? Each coach has emergency door release. There's a plastic cover over this red lever. You pull that lever, that plastic piece off, you grab that lever and you pull that out. It pops the door out, it disengages the motor, and you slide the door open and you climb on in. You're not going to be using your tools on these doors. You can't use your Halligans. You're not going to use your spreaders, your jaws, and things like that. These doors have 8 locking mechanisms. It's like a safe. They go in, they're hydraulically locked, okay? If you put your jaws in there, you're just going to start bending stuff. The door's not going to pop for you. Use these handles, all right? If this door is tweaked, you can't get in, 85 feet down, you got another door. There's 16 doors on a 4-car train. I guarantee you one of them will work. On the Philadelphia job and the New York job, that's how we got on the train. We used those handles. They still worked. Even on coaches turned on their side, those things will still work. Might have some damage on some of them. Go to the other side of the train and you'll be able to climb on, all right? Our newer coaches are coming with evac stairs on them. We're trying to get one of these in every coach. The door opens up the same way as it does on the other ones. You pull that red lever, the door will slide open. These steps do not come down with that mechanism. You have to climb up on board and lift it up. There's signage on there on how to use that. But again, use your train crew, all right? Get your train crew, hey, lower these steps for me or whatnot. When you do open doors, you got to be careful though. got to make sure the animals stay in the coach. All right, you open doors, people start bailing out on you. All right, so if you do open doors, either close them once you're on or put someone there to kind of protect it, to make sure that people don't jump off. Fires along the right of way. Again, this picture on the right, the chief's holding his critique right on the track. All right, no need to do that. Stay off the railroad. All right, even if the railroad is shut down, no need to be walking up and down the railroad. All right, you don't walk up and down the middle of 95. All right, stay off to the side. Same thing on the railroad. Diesel engine fires. Very rare for a diesel engine fire to happen. They do happen though. Our Brightline trains have a dual turbocharger on them, which means the engine revs very high. You don't get a lot of buildup. We use a very clean biodiesel. Your freight trains now, you may see this on those trains, particularly the older ones, the work trains, the blue engines. All right, they don't run at a high RPM, and they get a lot of buildup in there, buildup of fired fuel and buildup in that stack. You also get older locomotives. The injectors will get stuck open, and it'll just continually pour that diesel fuel into that engine. The engine can't combust properly. It burns it and blows it up out of the stack. Easy fire to fight. You go over, you push that diesel shutdown button, shuts off the locomotive. Usually in about 3 to 5 minutes, that fire will go out. All right, we have had incidents where departments would come throw a stick over the top of it, dump 750 gallons of water a minute in it. The water hits the motor explodes and blows up. They cause $2 million worth of damage when that's all they really have to do is shut it down on there, right? The roofs on top of locomotives have a built-in feature where they'll self-ventilate, all right? If there's a fire above that, there's panels on there that'll melt away on there and ultimately self-ventilate that engine for you. No need to climb up on top of that. This happened in Wilmington, Delaware. Firefighter went up on top. The top of the locomotive collapsed. He fell down into the engine compartment that was on fire. Seriously injured, he wasn't killed. But again, there's really no issue on why or how you should get on top of locomotives. Coaches will burn. They're designed very similar to aircraft interiors. They have to meet a certain threshold for fire retardant. They're not fireproof, they're fire retardant, but they will burn. Older coaches have bulkhead doors between them. Has anyone ridden our trains? Right? You can go from one car to the other, right? You don't even realize you're walking between coaches. There's no heavy doors on that. That's good for walking from coaches. It's bad if, God forbid, we got a job on there because the fire could communicate from one coach to the other. Older coaches, that won't happen. Our windows are a composite window, glass Lexan. They're hurricane times 10. You're not going to break the windows. We'll show you a video later on an incident and how tough these windows are. If there's a fire on the inside of these coaches, most of the time the window frame, the rubber gasket will melt first, and the window will fall out on you if you're standing there. So you got to be cognizant of that. You're not going to break these windows. If you're working a fire on one of our trains, work from the field side. You see the guys are on the left-hand side. That's where you want to work your fire from. If at all possible, you don't want to work from the live track side, even if you shut the railroad down. Again, protect yourself, all right? Here's a photo. The train on the left-hand side is a Brightline train. The train on the right is a freight train. We had an incident. We'll show you a video a little while. Incident happened. First new engine came. When the freight train witnessed the incident, they immediately stopped their train. Cut the city in half, okay? First new engine came in on the freight train side. Guy jumps off, puts his 1 3/4 hose on his shoulder, and he climbs underneath the train. Goes to fight the fire. That's that tunnel vision again. No notification to the railroad. Even if you do notify the railroad, never climb underneath a train for any reason. You can see where this guy climbed under was right underneath the wheels as well. It doesn't take much for that train to move, all right? Either the slack action running out or the locomotive engineer is not told to stop, he releases the brakes and starts moving. The best thing to happen would be you just lose the hose line. But if you're underneath that, all right, obviously that's something we just don't want to do. You never want to climb over or under cars, particularly freight cars. This is something that this department does. They got a lot of brush fires. So what they do at the beginning of brush fire season is they go out and they put 50-foot lengths of deuce and a half underneath the railroad tracks about every 500 feet. They leave it there. When they come out, when they get a job, the access road is on the left-hand side of this. They come out, they bring their engines, they hook up to these lines, put their forestry lines, or gated Y on one end of it, put their forestry lines or their 1 3/4 lines and fight the fire. Then the trains can continue to come through, again communicating at slow speed. FD does what they do, trains move ahead. It's good for deuce and a half. It's also good for 5-inch hose. All right, we've done it with 5-inch line. You get a job alongside the railroad, whether it's an industry or whatnot, and you need that water supply. First thing you're going to do, obviously, is what? Shut the railroad down, right? If you need to put your supply line across there, by all means do it, understanding that 12-minute possible time frame on that. You incident commanders should think about, where am I coming from? You got a good hydrant system in town, I hear, right? So if you're coming in and you have to lay across that railroad, you may want to think before doing that. Where's your second, third due engine coming in from? Are they coming in the other way? Instead of laying your supply line may only be 50 feet from your plug to where your incident is, but you have to traverse the railroad. You might not want to do that. You might want to bring your second, third due engine in on another side and make sure you got a continuous water supply. If you're going to be there for a while, think about doing this, all right? Your first supply line goes across, get a secondary water supply, put your hose underneath, shut down your original, connect to this, and continue to play all night long, all right? Again, understanding that, give us a call. We'll come out and help you do this, or the easiest way to do it as well, get your red line or your 1.5 inch, open a nozzle, blow that stone out of there to allow you access to put that 5-inch or deuce and a half line underneath the railroad. One continuous rail from Orlando to Miami. You don't hear that banging of the train tracks anymore because it's less maintenance. All right, that banging beats the hell out of the rail. The new rail is one continuous. Great for maintenance, bad for you folks. You're not going to hear that train coming. Very quiet. Likewise, we have rebuilt every grade crossing between here and Miami. They currently meet the standard set by the federal government for what they call a quiet zone. Most quiet zone means there's safety mechanisms built into those grade crossings that allow the towns or counties to request what they call a quiet zone, which means the trains will not be blowing their horns for any grade crossings. Great if you live near the railroad, but then again, you bought the house so the railroad was there, so shame on you. But it's bad because there's no notifications now. You folks could be working north and you hear it blowing for the grade crossing. That may not take place anymore, all right? That's all the government officials need to do is petition the railroad, and that quiet zone will be put in place. Railroads don't like it. The federal government doesn't like it. The politicians love it because it gets them votes. Again, watch for that. When that does happen, you folks will be notified on that. In that box is relays and batteries to battery backup. Battery backup is supposed to last about 12 hours. Usually doesn't last that long, but if there's a commercial power failure, the gates will still work. If by chance the batteries run out, the gates fail in the down position, all right? As soon as power is let, those gates will automatically come down. Terrible for traffic control, but good for safety because you won't have trains coming through without the gates working. But there's a lot of good information on this. It gives you the grade crossing, which says Northwest 4th Street. It gives you the mile post that the railroad is, and it also gives you that DOT, that blue sign number. So if you get any kind of job on the railroad or anything close to the railroad and you want to identify where you are, that's where you get that information. There's acid batteries in there though. Again, if you get a fire in there, right? You do have high voltage coming in, probably 440 coming in, but anything coming out of this is usually low voltage. So if you get an MVA that takes out those crossing gates, all the power going into that is low voltage. You don't have to worry about, getting anything jumping out on you from those grade crossings. Here's a grade crossing. This is similar to what we're doing all over the state with that cantilever and the quad gating. This is the FEC freight train that comes through here like 10 times a day. I'm sure you've all seen it, right? Got the locomotive in the front. You know what the second car is? It's the fuel tank. You know what's in that? LP gas, all right? You got 34,000 gallons of LP gas in that coach. That's the thing the chief here should be worried about.
Yep, I like that.
All right? That's coming through our town every day. That's on the head end of the train. All right? Diesel fuel is one thing. Diesel fuel is relatively safe, right? Got to be vaporized really before it'll burn. This is the stuff. This is the stuff that would keep me awake at night. What's behind this? That's where you got your propane cars, your acid cars, every kind of hazmat chemical you can think of is on board these trains. So again, part of your pre-plan should be understanding that these things are out there running. All right, we're going to come through nice and quiet. This bomb comes through every single, at least a dozen times a day. This is, I believe, in Stockton, California, somewhere out there. 750 feet of hose, right? He's got a hand stretch out. You guys got 750 gallons of water on your truck, right? You got no water at the pipe when you open it up. Where's your water supply coming? You got tankers. Your second due is going to have to start supplying you folks water to knock these things down. Again, grade crossing is 750 feet from where this train stopped. You may be a quarter mile depending on where you are with Brightline, okay, coming at speeds. So these guys obviously had training because they go right for the windows. All right. The passengers have already been moved out by the train crew. They're coming in doing their primary search and doing ventilation. All right, so this is where you put your fans in there or something. You guys carry fans on your trucks, right, for ventilation. Put your fans in, open the windows, and then ventilate on it.